And then I'm gonna open up I have a little intro thing I play.
Nice.
What's this at? Video intro. Okay. Boom.
Hey, everybody, tune in to Recent Tartarian.
Recent Tartarian. Recent Tartarian.
Well, everybody, that is how that starts. We just do that to people. We make them watch like a 5-minute mind control
It
video.
was like the
hopefully,
Clockwork Orange.
yeah, exactly. You haven't even been to
So,
Uber memes yet.
that was-
Uber memes will terrify you. It's a metal theme.
Oh, that's incredible.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is my favorite person, one of my friends for years, Ian Crossland. He is just a beautiful man with a beautiful soul, and his body's not bad either. You know what I'm saying?
You're
So,
right.
This guy here, Ian, how you been?
I've been great. Sorry to interrupt that intro, man. I'm letting you flow.
Dude, no, what? That is what it is.
Maybe that was
mean,
hot.
So many things have been coming up so much, and everything comes back to, they're like, oh, Andreas, you've lived an amazing life and you've seen so many things. But a lot of those things involve Ian Crossland. People don't understand all the amazing things that we've done together. We've gone around the world. We've been to Peru. You know, we tried to save the world. We escaped before the president was suicided or assassinated, Alan Garcia, like so many crazy things. And I've tried to build free software companies, and we're rising and falling in the middle of Babylon. So people need to know that the knight that is in this quest that is Ian Crossland. I wanted to introduce you a bit more to the world, you know?
Amen, sir. Thank you very much.
Do people even really talk about you enough? Like, do they know where you're from? Like, tell them about Ohio. Tell me about your life, you know?
Oh, well, growing up, I was raised in Northeast Ohio, Cuyahoga Falls. I was born in Akron, raised in Cuyahoga Falls with two brothers, three of us, three boys, two parents, mom and a dad. And we lived in the same house growing up. So that was kind of interesting. We almost moved in about 5th grade, but we ended up staying in the same place. They're still there. My parents are still at the same house. So when I go
That's
there,
awesome.
it's an anchor.
A beautiful area. And then your mom was a nurse who does a fireman. Is that right? Or
No, dad's was a fireman for like 30 years. Mother she was just a homemaker, and then just a homemaker, you know, but she was a good one. She was really good at it.
I saw Home Improvement. I get it now.
Yeah, that was the family. Dad's name was Tim. He was a goofball. The mom was like, boys, like just like the mom in Home Improvement. Very funny. It was just crazy how similar my family life was. We had a crazy neighbor, Louie, who would like look over the fence and spray us with the hose and stuff. And my mom was like a teacher's aide. She would teach kids with like developmentally handicapped or like developmentally disabled kids that were like having a hard time at home. So not like actual handicap, but just like having a hard time focusing and
special interest. Yeah.
Throwing stuff. And so she would, that was her gig.
That's awesome, man. But
She's also my study hall monitor for a little while. That was kind of cool. Or my school study hall monitor.
It was a good thing. That wasn't bad.
It was awesome. Yeah, my parents are so cool that they made me more popular. When people met them, they'd be like, "Oh my God, those are your parents? Those guys are awesome."
That's amazing.
It was really good.
But there's a Parker Lewis can't lose vibe there as well. Like, so you're living in this world where it's like a prison because it's, you know, school and Babylon, like everybody else. Like we're all trapped in this institute society. You escaped, or what happened? How did you get to? I mean, I guess you're art, right?
Yeah, I got into the theater. That was it for me. I was like, I need to do something that I wanted to be popular. I was like, I was really good friends with a lot of people in elementary school, and then I didn't really play sports very well. I didn't have any training. Why not football? They were like, I want to hit you. And I'm like, I don't want to hit you. They're like, yeah, but let's hit each other. I'm like, I don't want to break you, dude. And I don't want to get broken. So no, not unless I'm getting paid big money. I'm not going to jack you up. But we played baseball and I wasn't very good at it. I couldn't hit the ball very well. I watched a lot of TV and played computers. So my eyesight was kind of roughed up. So I had a hard time seeing the ball. My parents didn't have the money to, or at least they told me they didn't have the money to get me batting practice. So I'd strike out a lot. And a lot of my friends from elementary school kind of got fed up with me, I think, at that point. And so and then in middle school, they weren't friends with me anymore. They kind of I felt like they turned their backs on me, however it came about, but they were like all at their lunch table. And I sat at another table with a few nerdy guys, like math majors, mathematicians and stuff. And all I wanted was to reclaim that popularity. Like I had all these friends at elementary school. So I was like, how do I become popular? And then eventually that turned me towards acting. I saw how much people love actors. I was like, well, if I become an actor, maybe people like me. And it was true. That it really does work that way.
That and the fact you're like a really generous, helpful, honest person. I think that the long-term effects of that are pretty impressive.
That didn't work well in middle school because the kids would like take advantage of the kindness. I think they didn't, and vulnerability. Kids in the wild elementary schools, public schools anyway, will dive on vulnerability and kind of like, oh, if I can make him look bad, then it's going to elevate my status. So I got a lot of that. But once I became more popular or famous or whatever with acting, the kindness starts to pay off because then people look up to you no matter how you behave. You have an opportunity to kind of develop an aura of kindness.
That's a weird, interesting point. So then you went to like school for acting for like
Yeah,
theater, right?
I went to theater at Kent State. I started going for journalism.
Kent State.
Yeah, in Ohio, Northeast Ohio. And I started as a journalism major, and I did like the TV, the campus TV, TV2, Channel 2 news. I was a special reporter. Ended up doing sports at the Kent TV station. But then I was minoring in theater, and I auditioned for a play, and the woman that was directing the play advised me to become a theater major, and then she would be my advisor at the college. And I wanted to do that. I just thought I'll do journalism because I need to have a backup career in case acting doesn't work. I need money.
Yeah.
And then I realized I should just do what I want to do with my life.
Totally.
So I transitioned into the acting full time.
And then how did you get to California? You know, like
I always in college, I knew it was a big thing amongst the theater majors of like, when you graduate college, you got to go to New York or LA. If you really want to make it big as an actor, you got to do one or the other. So I always knew I'd either go to New York City or I'd go to LA and buy a car. And that was like, I'd never bought a car before. So that was like, it's one or the other. So I went to New York, 2001, right before September 11th. And that was nuts. I worked at the Ground Zero for a while. I moved to Chicago after that for a year.
Well, wait, what was it
LA.
like? What was it like in New York, right? Like living in New York in 2001, you know?
It was cool. It was really it was a few things. For me personally, it was challenging because I didn't have any money. I mean, I was just a recently graduated college student. I was going out there. I'm like, okay, I'm going to start temping. A lot of my college friends that had graduated a year before me were working like $18 an hour temping in Manhattan, and then they do theater at night. So I was like, okay, I'll do that. I'll line that up. I moved out there September 11th. I moved out there September 5th. And then 6 days later, the buildings came down and the economy ground to a halt. I couldn't get a gig, couldn't get a job anywhere. Unemployed. I had to borrow $600 from my dad, which was like right out of college. First thing is like, hey, but he understood the situation was kind of, anomalous. It was a bit strange.
Right.
So he actually just gave me the money. He didn't ask for it back. Still to this day, I don't think he's ever asked for it back.
Awesome.
And it was like I was living in my buddy's closet for $600 a month, literally like
New York,
a closet where you like can lay it straight, and then you have a little bit of room for the closet door, which was like a curtain, or it's like a piece of wood that we would like put over the open doorway to block it. And they were doing construction across the street. They were building this school. I mean, I'm talking like 7 a.m. jackhammers began. So it was pre-earplug era for me. I just had to, but it was New York, it smelled like New York, and there was like Greek. I was in Astoria in Queens at 30th and 30th, and this was a lot of Greek food. It was super freaking cool. A lot of brake dust. I didn't know at the time, but yeah, a lot of brake dust.
Dude, you told me about that, and you're like, check it out. And I went to New York and I rubbed my finger, and I was like, what the heck?
The black, super thin, fine particulate black.
There's some of it was white and some like gray and some of it was black, but there's like a gray stuff too. It was like stuff was on a powder.
It's so fine that it goes through the alveoli in your lungs, right into the bloodstream. That's what I've heard about it.
God, New York City, and so close to Montauk Project and all these crazy things, and 3 Mile Island or whatever. What do you think about like environmental effects of all the things we've done in the last 100 years affecting people in these cities? Do you think that there's something to that?
Yeah, for sure. Hypertension is a big part of, I think, the chaos that people have been feeling lately, either through psychedelics or not psychedelics, really psychoactive, but pharmaceutical psychedelics and psychoactives is what I don't know. Do you consider amphetamines a psychedelic or psychoactive?
Definitely psychoactive. I think, you know what? Amphetamines have psychedelics, because not all amphetamines are equal. There's like that book by Shulgin, which are the PiHKAL phenethylamines I've known and loved. And there's like DOC, DOB, DOI, like the brown acid at Woodstock was an amphetamine that had serotonin molecules attached to it. So you can use amphetamine like an envelope to attach psychedelics. So, it's complicated, but also just you'll go crazy if you do amphetamines all the time, right?
Yeah.
So,
Adderall. I mean, it's an amphetamine, and it's
like 15.
It's got to be.
Yeah,
it's wild. And that, in addition to like the carbon in the atmosphere raising hypertension, I think we put a lot of carbon out there without bringing it back in the last 150 years. I'm obsessed with like mining the air for carbon dioxide to deposit it onto palladium and make graphene out of it.
Yeah, I really want to do these studies on where, Tartaria, the idea of ancient cities. It seems like those ancient cities, that's where rainforests come from, because the rainforests, they're consuming all the carbon. There's just so much carbon there, so it becomes like a rich place for plants to emerge. But you got to Chicago. Okay, so what happened? Why Chicago? And then why'd you leave and go to California?
I had some theater friends in Chicago that had graduated, and instead of going to New York or LA, they went to Chicago. So there was like a group of friends of ours from college, and I was dating this girl in New York. She wanted to, actually, what happened was we were like, she wasn't very happy in New York. I was like, I could take it or leave it. The city was kind of like still reeling from 9/11 for like a year after that. And I went to visit Chicago for the first time in my life, and it was in the spring, summer. Which, if you've ever been to Chicago in the spring, do it in the summer or in the sping. It's beautiful, amazing. It was like Ohio, like small town Ohio mixed with big city New York City. There trees on every street. I was like, dang, man, I like this a lot better than New York, and I got a lot of friends out here. So I went back to New York, and I was like, hey, I want to move to Chicago now. And she was like, I just am getting my feet in New York, but okay. So we left and we went to Chicago. We spent about 3 years there, and then LA. I decided. She left and went to LA. And then like 6 months later, I was like, yeah, I'm going to go to LA.
It's the place to be. So you started trying to get jobs in acting in LA. Did anything work out? Like, what were the things that kind of popped up, or how did you get by? How'd you survive?
I was pretty fortunate having my girlfriend had moved out there before me and had got an agent. So by the time I got there, she got me an interview with her agency, and then I immediately got an agent. They sent me out on started sending my headshots out, and they got me an audition for this Dr. Pepper commercial. And I remember the day I'd gone out for a couple. They call them interviews. Like when you start doing LA, when you start working in the industry, they, instead of calling them auditions, you kind of refer to them as interviews and think like they're interviewing me. They want to see what can they give me, and they want to see what I can give them, but I want to see what they can give me, make sure that this job is right for me. That's how the management will like get you in the right mindset, so you're not nervous when you go in. I was doing these interviews, and then I got this one for Dr. Pepper, and I got there late. And so I tried to park, couldn't find any parking. So I had to park super far away. And I had to run so fast to get there. And when I got there, it was a brick wall. I'd run the wrong direction. And it was this giant, like 18-foot high stone wall. So I had to run all the way back again. Like just when I like gave it everything and I was done, I had to turn around and do it all again. But I broke myself to get there to the audition. When I got in, I was all sweaty and smiling, just like the endorphins were flowing. And they were like, just say, it was like, Dr. Pepper, but they loved the energy because I had just gone for a run, and they booked me on that. So then the agent booked me. They got me my SAG card. Yeah.
Totally.
They can feel the chi.
Dude, we got a $20 super chat from Venice Beach Dub Club saying, I'm from NYC. There was an NYT study in 2004 that revealed insane amounts of pharmaceutical drugs in NYC drinking water, especially birth control and SSRIs. When I switched from tap water to spring water, I felt my IQ jump. Yeah, I mean, what do you think about tap water? Real quick, more on that.
There's a thing in New York, and I just saw, I think it's Eric Adams post about this on Twitter maybe a couple days ago. New York has the best tap water in the world. There's this thing about how great New York's tap water is. And they used to tell me in New York, they'd be like, New York tap water is fine. New York tap water is great. So I was drinking a lot of
Keeps
Tang.
the alligators strong.
Yeah. I'd go to the sink and I'd tap water into my cup, and it would be like gray cloudiness. And they're like, that's just like sediment settling. And you'd watch, and like, after 30 seconds or a minute, it would settle and become clear. But for the first like 30 seconds, it was like cloudy. And they're like, no, it's the best tap water. They have great. But I don't buy it.
Oh my God.
I don't know. Do you swear on the show, by the way?
Yeah, you go ahead. You do it.
Okay. Yeah, it was bullshit. Is what it was. Because it's like you're saying, how could you not put two and two together and think maybe one of the most dirtiest, overpopulated cities in the world has dirty tap water? Like, how could it not? It's the sewers. Have you ever been down in the subway system there?
Dude, we had a guy yesterday talking about restructured water, right? Have you heard about this whole idea that like the water's just been through this trauma, from being through all these crazy pipes going every direction. And if you put the water through that Schauberger thing, it makes the water remember who it is,
This is like a spiral.
Spiralization. There's also, he's been saying there's this thing called primal waters that like is like water with more memory. That's like where water teaches other elements to become water from. And that primal water rises up from underground and things like that.
Oh, It's kind of got like a membrane quality to it,
Yeah,
like a fungal. What would you call that? The mycian sheath. Is that what it's called? Mycinaean sheath. It's like how the mushrooms make this like almost like web of
Oh, like the mycelium sheath.
yeah, the mycelium. Water kind of resembles that, although it's a fluid. It's got a similar kind of web-like membrane structure
Dude,
to
the
it.
plasmoid. So something that you brought a lot of attention to, the plasmoid. What do you think about that? You know, there's some kind of consciousness, or what do you when you talk about the plasmoid, what do you think about?
It looks like a phenomenon that's a result of two magnetic fields interacting. It's a large magnetic field and a smaller one, and you see the smaller magnetic fields getting bombarded from the left on this image. Like, so to the left would be the sun, and then that circle there to the in the leftern part of the image is the Earth, and this is the Earth's magnetic field we're looking at getting pushed to the right by the sun's power force, and it's causing this, what do you call it, a phenomenon, this shape, which looks like a bisection of like a cockroach or a
or like
squid.
a jellyfish or something.
Yeah.
A squid. Yeah, totally.
And the
Octopus.
plasmoid is in the gonad section, right where like your fifth or your sixth chakra, like your nuts would be, or your asshole or something. So
is that the Kundalini chakra, right? Yeah.
Like the core, like your core, basically. That's the plasmoid would be in where the core of the cockroach is, or the core of the squid or whatever. And it's just a shape. It's a magnetic shape that's being caused by a field, but maybe that's what we are too.
Wow. Because you've got like the central nervous system connecting the mind and the reproduction or something. You know, it's this black sun and white sun kind of thing.
Yeah. So this is like this could be maybe a representation of the nervous system.
Oh my God, I got to show you this. I'm so glad you're here. I forgot to tell you. So Skeleton's new graphene supercapacitors after 72% increase in energy density. Have you seen this yet?
No.
Dude, so what they did is they figured out how to curve graphene essentially so that when it rolls, it's not quite a carbon nanotube. It's still kind of just bent, but it is better suited to attach to aluminum oxides. And so they're making these supercapacitors in the shapes of batteries that can charge, you know, they're about 10 times more efficient than the Tesla system supercapacitors that exist. And they have they can charge in minutes, right? It's just almost an instantaneous charge. It can run all day. It's going to be crazy. The new stuff from Skeleton. So I wonder, because you know you love graphene. Graphene's a big part of our lives. What do you think about graphene, and why are we not there yet?
I want to send you a link. I'm going to send this to you now on Facebook.
Oh, can you send in the chat in the Skype thing?
Skype. I don't have.
Sorry, Zoom. I forget the name.
Yeah, I can do that.
The Babylon software that isn't closed, that isn't open source. There it is.
The Babylon Onion.
Yeah.
Here it is. This is a new article about graphene, turbostratic and twistronic. Nice. So they've been experimenting with twistronic graphene. And what they're doing is they're putting layers of graphene on top of each other, turned at slight angles, like 1.1 degrees. They figured it out first with 2 layers. They were like, if you put a second layer of graphene on top at 1.1 degrees, you start to get super conductive properties. And then they were like, if you put a third layer on top of that at 1.56 degrees, you get even better capacitative and conductive property. And now they're figuring out, they're just stacking just more and more and more layers.
Just
what they're doing.
Wow.
I think what they're going to end up building is a 64 tetrahedron that you would bisect into 2-dimensional space. So like, yeah, you see that? So like, if that's a flat plane of stacks of flat graphene on top of each other, this would be the 3-dimensional version of it. But if you bisect it like there up in the top left, and just start putting flat layers of graphene on top of each other, until you've got them all poking out. So you've got, you know what I'm talking about? Like, I don't know how many layers you would have to have this shape. Probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe. Mm-hmm. But then they could stack more. There might be way more. Yeah. And it might not be this shape, but it looks like they're stacking it on top of each other until they create the ultimate supercapacitor that can handle lightning. I think, in my opinion, we're going to start conducting, charging, and storing lightning with this stuff.
This is insane. So we're talking about all these energy storage capacities that could be used. When we were trying to do graphene water filtration in the Amazon, what was that, 2016? that long ago? It was 2017?
No, it was I was like late 17, 18, I think.
17, 18. So, I mean, still, where are the graphene products on the market?
Where's the graphene dental floss?
Yeah. So what's
Dude,
going on?
We're going to make wires that are detachable. Have I talked to you about this? We might have. Graphene wiring that you can pull apart.
Oh yeah.
If you need a shorter wire, and then if you need to make a longer one, you stick it back together like the Apple chargers, how they like are magnetic, and you can have like malleable wires or like different lengths of what, because wrapping cords is so annoying,
right? Yeah, it could be like Velcro instead of wires, hooks and loops and everything.
Yep,
on a nanoscopic level.
Why it hasn't happened yet? I mean, there's the selfish answer, which is because I haven't done it yet. You know, we still, but realistically, I think big copper and oil is not excited to make big lithium. You know, lithium corporations aren't excited to, you know, kind of displace their industry. The copper wire industry will be displaced by graphene wiring. You can upscale. Well, technically, you can upscale coal into graphene if you hit it with lasers. So you can make cleaner fuel out of it that burns longer, I believe.
That's a borafene out of boron.
It's the phene structure, the hexagonal structure. So we figured the carbon one, we figured the boron. I don't know what other phene structures.
More salts, like any one of these salt crystals, because then they self-replicate. So if you can train the crystal to self-replicate a pheno or even a fullerene, you know, because you could have it be like a Buckminster fullerene, then you can have a superstructure that continually grows just by being submerged in more solution, whether it be like water with minerals or salts, you know.
Could you spray it as well rather than submerge it?
Yeah, I mean, if you put the material, yeah, exactly. If you sprayed the thing, then another sheet would grow, right? And if it's following the same, if it has the same fractal growth pattern, then it should come out looking the exact same way. If it does things if you can force it to replicate in the same pattern, right? Which is, I mean, that's what crystals do. So, you know, using salt crystals would be really an interesting thing to keep working on more.
Yeah, it's interesting to think of the 3D printing environment not as we're creating it, but that we're letting it grow.
Yeah, that's the biggest. We need to start growing buildings. I think that's a big one. Like you just set the initial conditions for it, and then it's there. So that's the shape that's going to continue to form. You know, like
I've been in touch with some scientists that are working on turbostratic flash graphene. So nice. I think if we can take carbon trash, hit it with lasers to flash it into graphene in a turbostratic state, which is where you're flashing it into these flat little wafers, basically. And then if you can do it so that they flash on top of each other into position twistronically, and you can just out of plastic or carbon dioxide create like layers of superconductive.
I got a filastruder, right, which you put pellets into and it puts out filament. So what would be great is to figure out and how there's some of these people putting carbon fiber into filament. If you could make the proper bonds grow through the filastruder and you have a filament you could 3D print using the graphene, and then when it settles you bake it, the plastic kind of goes away and the carbon's the main thing that remains besides a bit of waxy epoxy resin, you know, then you'd have a graphene 3D printable material, which could be, you know, again, like you're saying, and have electrical capacities and conductive capacities.
When you say bake it, what would that entail?
So you put it in like an oven and you turn it up to a temperature that's like maybe 10 degrees below what the plastic temperature melts at. So it starts to constrict and solidify around the carbon, and then the carbon's pushed together. And assuming that you've got also another kind of chemical that's activated at that temperature that helps bond the carbon more because it actually turns to carbon itself, then you'd probably create these interlocking kind of patterns that are, the more that they are, the more likely they are to be bonded well right now. And then if they're connecting everything, you'd have this is how they're working on the space tether, right? You know, they want to make a tether of that stuff, and each part's so small. How do you get it to hold together like a chain, you know?
So they got to bake it tight.
Yeah, baking it tight and getting things in between to grow carbon nets, like just carbon wire nets. Even if you smoke a cigarette, it produces these carbon wire nets that look like your aerial antenna. So if those things get in there enough, then they can lock things up, right?
Can you bake it with light? Is it
that? Well, if it's certain kinds of chemical reactions, yeah, light will cause them to explode.
I like this space elevator thing. Michael Lane, he'd be a great interview. Works with Spaceport, and he has been working on a space elevator on the moon. He's previously of NASA, and Liftport is the name of this company, Liftport. They're working on the moon because the gravity's so much less. It's way easier on the elevator, like the earthen elevator. They think right now we're still figuring out what materials to use. We don't want it to snap, break, so we're just experimenting in, what is it, 1/8 of the gravity on the moon or something?
Yeah, something to that effect.
But he's been pioneering that for, I haven't talked to him in about a year and a half, but I think about 4 years they've been working on that.
Dude, and who's the guy who makes islands again? We gotta talk
Richard
to him.
Silva.
Richard Silva.
Fascinating human. I don't know if you guys have ever talked about this on your show, but
I haven't. Let me pull up a picture while you explain.
Yeah, this guy's fantastic, man. He has been recollecting trash, bought plastic bottles, fills them with dirt, and then wraps them in like these he's so cool. Look at that. He built that. I think that's one of his islands that he built. Yeah. So he wraps dirt with like plastic bags. He'll stick dirt in it, plastic trash, bottles, all this stuff. And then he puts a layer of dirt on top of it and then plants trees. And the tree roots grow down under what you see here, the surface of this, where all the plastic trash is, and the roots grow around the plastic trash bags underneath and bind them and hold them. So there's all this trash bound in position by plant roots that are causing this island to float. And it's actually like a boat. It can move around, and he lives on it, and he floats around like just off the coast of Mexico. He's got like 3 of these islands that he's built. And he says that they can actually fly, that because above the island, there's a low pressure gradient due to all the oxygen that's being sucked out by the trees, that if you could somehow enhance the lift, that you could actually pick it up and get it up off the water. God. I don't know if
this was a balloon, right? Like, sure, you could have it be like a Zeppelin with an island on a Zeppelin. Why not?
Yeah. Even if it's not like literally being picked up off the water, even if it's just like being lifted a little bit, it would help it move faster. I think this guy's really fascinating,
dude. We need to do more. We need to get anybody you think of that are important that we need to talk to and that are important people, we definitely have to do. So you used to do all these great videos. You're doing these crazy commercials for Dr. Pepper. You're in music videos for Disturbed or something. I forget. Yeah. So what happened? Why did you decide you wanted to do, like, you care about graphene, you care about the world, you don't want other people writing your script as much. You're trying to write your own script a lot of the time. You're telling the world with YouTube, right? How did you start doing like podcasting and all that other stuff?
It was like 2006. I was in LA working as an actor, and it was just the same, like the grueling, like, hey, I got to go to the agency and drop off my headshots. I'm submitting for these roles. You like go to the casting agency and drop off like a packet or 6 packets with 6 different headshots, all like 2 casting director A, 2 casting director B, role of Bobby. And it was like so expensive getting headshots. And then I saw the YouTube. I was like, I'd been talking to my girlfriend a lot at the time about like God and Jesus. And I'm like, oh, wow, this stuff is like real. I think this is actually real. Like communication, you can kind of like overcome weird obstacles in people's brains. And if you just talk to them and listen to them and give them your genuine self. So I started making internet videos about that because I wanted to tell my friends from college. I was like, you guys, this is freaking real. You can like overcome the weird, what people think people in LA are fake. They're just afraid. What I was experiencing is they're just afraid to like break the ice. But if you like just engage people. So I started making videos, and then all of a sudden people started responding on the videos to me that I didn't know. I wanted to send them MySpace videos at the time, but MySpace couldn't handle the video load. So I started using YouTube and embedding the YouTube video in my MySpace blog and then emailing the blog to my friend Eric or something. But then people on YouTube started commenting. I realized there's people on YouTube. This is like a community. So I started leaning into it. And then people started making video responses. That was the most interesting. I realized they're real people and they really believe in this communication thing. And then started realizing like, this is more important to me than acting. This idea of communication and helping people. The only reason I want to be an actor is to become famous to help people. But now I can directly listen and communicate. And then I started to see like the dirty, kind of overly sexed industry of Hollywood for what it was when they're like, you're just so sexy and you just got that sex. We're going to sell your sexuality. I'm like, I don't want this. I didn't come out here to be an object. I want to help people. There's obviously a balance, because if you let yourself be used to the point where they love you so much and you're put in a position of fame, and then you can kind of use your fame, but like the ends don't justify the means. I'm not going to prostitute myself to become what I think I want to be. I have to live my moment, be what I believe is right. And it was tough. That was tough because Hollywood didn't like my videos. As far as I could tell, I was also getting high a lot and stoned a lot. So I don't think they liked that, but it was like a risk. Like, you can't, if you're a Hollywood director and you've got secrets and you've got women on the casting couch, you do not want to necessarily hire a guy that's going to go tell everybody that on the internet, on his YouTube videos. And I was very honest about stuff.
Transparent. Yeah.
And I stopped getting called back for roles as much. Also, I was doing commercials. Like, I did a Wendy's commercial audition where they were like, your line is, doesn't matter what's in it. It tastes great. And I'm like, oh, this is everything. I don't believe that. It definitely matters what's in your food. So I did it. I read it. I felt dirty. I'm like, I'm done with this stupid shit. Like, nah, it was like before the partner program on YouTube. So there was no money in it. It was just that I felt more about being myself and it was so depressing. I fell apart. I didn't know what to do with my life. I geared 20 years of my life or 15 years of my life into acting. And all of a sudden
Wendy's.
It was like, all of a sudden Wendy came along and I was like, this isn't working.
But no, you also brought up some important stuff I shouldn't have laughed about, because when you talk about, like, you know, our friends who've been in, okay, there's all kinds of crazy stuff that we've all been Me Too'd in Hollywood to some extent, and it's a serious issue, and people don't realize when they go to LA and then they get, you know, exploited. So it's not that funny. It's very serious.
Yeah,
so
the industry's it's kind of got a cult like thing. The theater, you know, I broke up with my girlfriend and they took her side, and it wasn't like. It felt like that anyway. And people were mad at me because I was like, you know, it's all on YouTube. I was like, oh, she'd been stripping, and I was like internalizing that, and then started hooking up with other girls. And I was like, you know what? I took these mushrooms for the first time in my life, psilocybin. And I was like, I got to be honest with her. I can't lie about this anymore. I got to tell her what I did. It's
How did
not
mushrooms
right.
change that? Like, what did mushrooms make you feel like honesty, Kantian honesty was going to change forever?
You know, Dominic Bertolami.
Oh, of course.
Obviously, we kind of met through Dominic.
God, what a great painter.
I love him.
Dom, we love you.
Dominic, bring it back. He was like, yo, if you ever want to do, you know, mushrooms, I think they're the drugs you will like. Mushroom, psilocybin, man. So one night I was like, yeah, let's do it. We were just hanging out and we went for a walk in Manhattan Beach. It was magical, man. It was amazing. It was one of those nights, I don't know, where you're tripping on mushrooms, you know? And we were just walking. It was trash night. So there's all this trash out. And I was like, where is this trash going? What are we doing as humans? What if we just leave it and just walk away, just ignore, out of sight, out of mind? And then I was like, I can't, you know, honesty. We were talking about honesty and communication. And I'm like, I can't just live. I can't lie. It wasn't, neither of us were happy in the relationship at the time, but it was a hard transition in my life to break up with this girl that I'd been with for like 7 years, to leave this career that I'd been focused on for 15 years, all because I felt like I was compelled to, and I almost killed myself. It was like, I felt like I had nothing to live for at that point. Cause I don't know. It's a weird thing to just all of a sudden, everything you've been working for half a decade or a decade is now not there anymore.
What year about was that?
2009. I started to have a real breakdown 2008.
That's when we hung out. That's amazing.
That's like we lived at the Madhouse. So me and you met at this place called the Madhouse on Venice Beach, where the Doors used to live. A couple of the Doors used to live back in the 60s, 70s or something. Navy and Pacific, right on the corner there next to Davy Jones Liquor Locker. And that was a dark time for me. I was like, trying to figure out what to do. So we're doing Bitches All Around Me with Aaron Light.
All Around Me. We need to put that video out there on Discord. People need to see that again.
It's available. I think it's on my YouTube channel.
Oh my God. Guys, please watch Bitches All Around Me.
Yeah, Bitches All Around Me. Aaron Light, superstar.
Ian's in Pilates outfit. And I remember that's when I first respected Ian, because he's just a guy who lived at this house up until I saw him edit a video. I'm like, oh, I see you're an artist. Because I never seen an acting.
Yes. You saw my finer points. David Bertolami edited it, even though he was like, oh God, this movie, I don't want to do this. He did it free of charge. And we were all like these poor hippie kids trying to make some crazy art. While at the same time, the station, Maker Studios, $1 billion company, like 15 blocks away, is
God.
killing it on YouTube, but I was too high and like out of my mind and hating on the entertainment industry. I was, because I think if I'd been more balanced, I could have been like, I'm not going to do the Hollywood auditions, but I am going to work with Maker, Danny, Lisa Nova, Ben, Cassim, Cecily, and we're going to make the next generation of entertainment. But I was so like damaged that I couldn't do either. I was like, entertainment is entertainment. It's dirty. So that's dirty. And I was pretty like unfairly judging this new media coming out, which was like people control their own market. They're making their own movies. Amateur, but fuck, you have total control. And so I didn't give that as much energy as probably in a perfect universe I would have. But you know, lesson learned. They still sold the company and made a shitload of money off it. So it was like everybody won with that thing.
Dude, but you basically set the tone in a lot of ways. I mean, people do what you do. The most successful YouTubers today are doing exactly what you started with doing, and all of your videos are still up. So it's also interesting if people ever see you on a more normie podcast somewhere, that they can find your like radical content for years. And you were doing this how like often, like weekly, daily, almost
every day. I would get up at noon, or I'd get up by like 11 a.m. It depended on if I had to work. I was waiting tables at Dusty's on 3200 Sunset.
We got a horrible super chat. Venice Beach Dub Club, $5. They closed Davy Jones Liquor Locker due to the lockdown. I left Venice around the same time, and it's on plans now. Rip Venice. Wow, that's pretty.
Rip Davy Jones.
It's like we're in a different timeline. That's crazy.
We used to buy 40s at Davy Jones, man. When I had $2 to spend.
Judd would buy like hundreds of little tiny hotel bottles, because you know he got in trouble. He won Survivor, and everyone's always trying to arrest him or get a picture of him for TMZ. So he's like always getting these little tiny bottles, so he'd not have to worry about it. And then they're like, "Why don't you buy the big bottles?" Like, I can't control it. I can't.
Judd Burza, shout out to Judd, dude.
What a hero! What a
Superstar. I love that guy. Yeah, a lot of fun days hanging out on the porch with Judd.
God, we'll get him involved with some shit. We're gonna get the world rolling again.
Yeah, I agree. What was the? Before
you were saying that you were working every day.
Oh yeah, every day. It was awesome, man. I would get up at like 11 a.m. noon on a day that I had to work. Say I had to work at Dusty's 4 or 5 days a week. I'd work at the restaurant. Yeah. Get up at 7 a.m., go to work, open up, get back by like 2 p.m., smoke a bowl, turn on internet videos and start watching people's vlogs. And it would just be people talking about their feelings. And then I would get inspired and make a video response, often high, which was, you know, arguably maybe I could have been a better showman, but I was enjoying it. And then I would do that until 4 a.m. And then I'd get up at 7 a.m. again. I was on like no sleep. I'd get real sick because I was smoking, staying up late and eating sugar. This is like before I kind of had a dietary revolution too. This came right around the same time I had a breakdown as I changed my diet and cut the sugar way out. And so it was like every day. I do like 3 videos a day. Some days I wouldn't do any. There was no schedule. Also a bit of a problem if I was looking to make a career out of it. I didn't have a schedule. Some days I just wouldn't. There'd be like 2 days that I wouldn't make a video. And it was kind of, no one knew when it was coming or what it was going to be next. I didn't even know. Sometimes I make a video at 4 a.m.
I'm on that wave right now. That's why I totally vibe now. Because you were always like, dude, you got to try this. You got to be making videos every day. It'll change your life. Just look at the timeline. Look at how your life changes. I mean, it's true.
I would get like some nights I'd make a video, I'd put it up, and then I'd immediately want to make another video. But I would realize so I'd do it. And then I'd realize that it would destroy the analytics because it would cut back on the views of the first video. So I'd be like, well, wait, now when I want to make that second video, don't do it. Just let that first video resonate. But then my message doesn't get out clearly because I have this addendum that I want to add. And so the first video might be there, but I would feel this vibe of like people didn't quite get it because I didn't make the second video. So I had to realize like it's not about the views, it's about the message.
Right.
But putting out I was like experimenting with message saturation, like putting too much out was. So I'm like, how do I like hone it perfectly so I get the right? And I'm like, how do I manipulate people? And it's like, I don't play that fucking game, man. Just say what you say, do what you do. But you got to learn discretion. I've learned discretion over the years. You don't want to always just put your butthole in everybody's face at every moment.
Yeah, it's time, place, and manner with OnlyFans. You though have gone from having, I mean, I wouldn't say it's a small YouTube channel either. Actually, it was pretty decent size, and you had lots of people seeing it. I remember your Obama is gonna win YouTube chant was like everywhere. Millions of people probably saw, because it was
it felt like it was it got featured by Steve Groves. He was running the news and politics section of YouTube, and he enjoyed it. I made a video basically saying, Barack Obama, you're going to win. I think it's Message to Barack Obama is what it's called on YouTube. And it to this day, I think it has like 65,000 views, which felt like a million in 2007 or whenever.
You said what they wanted to be heard, right?
Yeah,
So
political full propaganda. I didn't think about it at the time, but man, I mean,
I don't
did
care
know.
what's in it. It's delicious.
Yeah.
Obama.
I knew it was like mob political propaganda, but I didn't care because I was like I was a zealot at the time.
Yeah.
I didn't, but also like the technology's there. Don't ignore it.
Right.
Like obviously it's a popularity contest getting votes. So like just make people believe he's going to win by saying you're going to win and say it with confidence. I didn't know he was going to win. I just said I knew he was going to win. I said he was going to do it. It's an experiment, social experiment. Like what if I act like I believe it and I say it, will other people believe it? And then will it become reality? Maybe it contributed, but Grove featured it.
Yeah. The featuring came. I mean, like the fact that people see it and then that becomes part of consciousness. I mean, that's a huge thing. People are still wondering how much control Facebook and Google have over public opinion because they're able to push these ideas. But you've gone from having like, comparably, it was a smaller channel with extreme content in a lot of ways. And now you're in a pretty normal, like Timcast is a very mainstream place. Lots of people watch it all the time. You're kind of featured as the wild card, but who brings up the ideas that people don't. But at the end of the day, you're getting heard, right? So what's the difference and how do you maintain that you're able to get the word out there?
One of the
more people.
Interesting things about my YouTube channel, I think had 8,000 subscribers. I think I got about 5,500 subscribers in 2007, 5,000. And then but I couldn't change my channel name, which was Crossmack. I couldn't change it to Ian Crossland. I was like, all right, I'm done with this fake name. I'm being myself. I'm being real. Hey, everyone, my name's Ian Crossland. The Crossmack thing is just a name, but people kept calling me Crossmack because that was the channel name. So I'm like, I got to make a new channel. YouTube wouldn't let me. The technology wasn't available for me to change the name of the channel. So I created an entirely new YouTube channel called Ian Crossland and tried to get people to port over. There's people still today that don't know I have a second channel. They thought I just stopped making videos in 2007. And
can you log back into Crossmack?
I have them both. Now they're connected. Now YouTube lets, and I can call them both Ian Cross. I can change the names of either. I wouldn't have had to make a new channel if the tech was where it's at today, but it disrupted the flow of growth for my channel at the time. The second channel got up to about 6,000 or 7,000 subscribers, 8,000 maybe. And then that was when I kind of backed off of YouTube in 2011 and started doing mines full time, working behind the scenes. But since I've been on Timcast, the subscriber count of my new channel has gone from like 8,500 to 16,000. It's like double. It's like, and I've only made like 3 videos or 4 videos on it, but there's so much publicity from Timcast that it's just blowing up. It's huge. I get messages pretty frequently. Hey, make another video. Yeah. Your voice is necessary, please. But it's like the reason I was making them to begin with is because I needed a creative outlet. I wanted to communicate ideas, but I've been doing that on IRL. So I don't feel the burning need as much. Doesn't mean I'm not going to or that I shouldn't. It's another kind of reality.
Do you feel like you're getting heard enough by everybody?
No, it's good. It's definitely great. I would say it's great, but not enough. I'm not satisfied.
Is that trade-off more people are hearing less of you as opposed to less people are hearing more of you?
That's exactly what it is. And it's working. It's like if they'd put me in a Hollywood blockbuster, if I'd been in, whatever the new Jurassic Park 9, getting it with the dinos or whatever the fuck you want. Then all of a sudden I got 600,000 followers on Twitter. And I'm like, wow. I spent 10 years of my life making YouTube videos for 6,000 people. I'm in one super famous movie, and now 100 times of the people want to watch me. And one of the sad things about the cult of personality, this reality where we're making people make videos and then they have a cult following and all this, for me, I wanted to make it about the message, love, communication, interaction, things like this, listening. And I'd go to these events and people would like crowd around me with their cameras out recording. This is like 2007. It was pretty new. And I'd be telling them like, yeah, we can communicate and get through anything. And they'd be like, Ian, that's Ian Crossland. Ian, remember that time you said, and I'm like, they don't care what I'm saying. They don't really care about the message that much. They want to be around me, the body. They care more about the cult worship of Ian Crossland than the message of what I'm trying to tell people to do and to think and to be. And that was frustrating because I don't like unearned power. I don't like that someone's famous. So now people pretend they just like them because they're told to like them. It kind of bothers me. And it kind of has held me back from becoming this cult icon. But at the same time, it's like, that's ego. Holding back is also ego. Kind of got to
you
like,
don't own your own identity. That's the beautiful thing. Like, look at Daft Punk, it's like you create an identity. Crossmack is probably a beautiful distance from yourself because it's the thing you're selling, as opposed to your whole identity. You can separate from 9 to 5 if you have to, or something like that.
Oh yeah. If I'm not on TV, I don't talk. Like
Right.
I barely talk. I sit in my room. I read, I play video games. I'll talk to people from time to time.
But you're a pretty introspective guy. It's true.
Yeah. I'm usually pretty silent unless there's a reason to be communicating about something. I mean, I've just gotten past the manic stage of my career.
Of your identity.
Yeah. Of my personal identity. Now it's just a TV identity that's manic.
But you've accumulated so much intellectual wealth, wisdom. You're even at a point now where you can make your dreams come true. Few people realize that the majority of the 3D printers at Timcast and the Cyber Gulag were actually Ian's printers. I don't know if you guys know that. So, I mean, Ian's pretty down with all this stuff. We reconnected after we kind of got separated after the Madhouse because I was interested in mines. You were interested in graphene. So I wonder what your future is. Do you think that you're going to be, what are your goals? You've talked about graphene, you've talked about free software, you talked about free speech and helping communication. What do you want to do next?
I've been thinking about starting a graphene company, or at least turning one of my corporations into a graphene company. This is like almost not daily, but lately I've been thinking about it weekly at least. And I keep thinking like, I don't know how, but then, I mean, we could just do it.
Little do they know that Tartary Nova is a joint corporation owned by Ian Crossland and Andreas Exertus.
Yes, that could easily be a graphene corporate. It probably should be a graphene corporation. I just got an email from a guy who's doing turbostratic flash graphene who wants to get involved. So like, I think the people, Ben Stewart he was like, dude, do it. That's a great idea. Tim's like, do it. That's a great idea. People want me. Seemingly people consider, like, I was just, the Lotus Eaters were just talking about this new graphene tech where they're going to make like a graphene balloon to block out the sun. And they mentioned my name. So I think that the energy is right. The iron is hot to do it. Like,
we're going to talk to the dark space bubble companies. Yeah, it's true.
And it would just be really about, what I really want to do is start flashing turbostratic graphene into position, like twistronic position. If we can do it all in one move and just pull the carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, we can advise other companies in the world, governments, about not taking too much carbon out of the atmosphere so that we can live in symbiosis with the foliage.
I'm a big fan of that. I mean, I know, and we'll have to, because like we're getting to the end of the hour, so we'll save sp2 orbitals and sputtering techniques for the future. I know we will get back to talking about graphene, but also free software is a big thing. So what do you think about, we've talked about trying to finish the Open Network Foundation or whatever it's becoming, which is the home base app is one of the names that they've tossed around, but just the idea of confederated free communication systems that transcend all of these different closed doors, right? What do you think about that? I mean, MySpace to YouTube to getting locked out of your account. What is the problem with all that, and what is the solution, and why are we trying to fix it?
The biggest problem is that centralization is awesome for functionality. And so decentralized systems are still pretty untested and slow relative to, like, if you want to send if you want to watch a video, if someone's not hosting it, you need a huge amount of people on the mesh or on the, I think that's the main problem, is that it's not as fast. I mean, for adoption, that's the main problem for adoption, but people want it. So from experience, when humans want something, it becomes reality. They make it happen. And I think it's inevitable, but that doesn't mean it's inevitably going to be done right. So I think that's that's part of why I'm we do it. We still meet every week, and the build is coming along extremely well. We just did a mock-up on Figma, and we're looking at the designs for the app or for the web app, and then talking about building an actual Android and iOS app. It looks really good, dude. Really good, really good. Brian Fenwick is a genius designer. The guy's really, really good.
Dude.
I'm very excited about this tech that's coming out from that organization, and that would be there's no actual organization, like legal organization or entity around that. It's just a group of us just building free software for the moment. But
That's awesome.
That could be also another industry, whether or not I think it would be ultimately if there was like a graphene industry and a free software industry, they would be two different organizations. And I don't think that necessarily there's really a bond between those two structurally yet.
Google and all their little companies have all separated themselves, and it makes a lot of sense to focus on the proper energies and stuff. Do you think what are the main things holding us back, holding you back? I started with like, why is graphene not happening? We went through so many crazy lessons that we never realized we needed to learn about why it's hard to start a multi-billion-dollar graphene corporation that disrupts all technology. But what are the things that we are going to have to triumph over to get this done?
Let's see. Well, I guess you raise some money. Like if I had like $6 million to hire seven people, I don't know, man. A business plan. I mean, when we were in South America working on recollecting the plastic, breaking it down with Pestiolopsis microspora to turn it into sugar, the government was like not. It was just, I don't know if it was just too disruptive or we just happened to have been there at the wrong time, but like, it was like, they had a $17 million budget they wanted us to look at, but then immediately was like, that's all done. The president is now dead or in exile or whatever, resigned. It was just chaos. And it felt like with the people in Berlin and Iquitos where we were revolting against the mayor. I mean, long story short, we were down in South America helping our friend clean the plastic out of the Itaya River. And then we were like, well, we can break the plastic down into sugar and reuse it, alloy it or not alloy it, but combine it with graphene, turn it into building materials like 3D print tubes and make these geodesic domes. But the people were like suffering. They were hungry. They didn't have education. So they were pooping in the river and then drinking the poop water. And then when they found out like that the government had forsaken them and they didn't have the education to know about cleanliness and that the city wasn't paying for their trash removal, they freaked out. They attacked the mayor's house, not him personally, but they dumped trash. And it was just like a feeling of chaos was coming out of this new technology. It felt like it wasn't just the technology. It was the whole process of like cleaning up was kind of creating chaos for the current system, because the current system is living very fat and, effectively off the backs of the suffering of the rest of the system. And so that chaos is definitely a form of resistance. It feels like I don't like chaos. I don't want to bring on chaos, but I don't think currency in its current state is sustainable. Money is not the final form of currency. It's like electricity is currency. And that I think is way more valuable than money at this point, because you can essentially create water out of air. You can make carbon out of carbon dioxide, which you can turn carbon into food. So you can make food out of air. That logically follows if you have enough electricity. That I guess. So the biggest resistance, I don't know, man. There doesn't. I don't know if I can answer that in one question, in one answer. What the biggest resistance hurdle is for that. Is that maybe I don't know. I don't feel like I know enough people to get it done yet, but that might just be, I have never done it before. So it's the fear of having not done it is like holding me back. Like, what if I do it wrong? I don't want to do it wrong. So I haven't done it at all, but like, sometimes you just got to try.
Ian, I know we're at the end of the hour. It's an amazing hour to have. I'm super glad you came. We should definitely get back together, and I'm so stoked that you could answer all these questions. I'm glad people get to hear a little bit more about your life. I think a lot of time they don't know those little aspects, and it's one of the cool things about you that makes you just like such a stand-up, trustworthy guy that I love so much. So I'm glad you came.
Thanks for having me, homie. Let's do this again.
Yeah. Get out there. And also Fridays, you got a show tonight, right? So everybody go ahead and check out Ian tonight on the show.
8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube, Timcast IRL.
It's a thing to do.
Oh, also, if you want to follow me on social media, get through from iancrossland.net. You can find all my socials there and then just hit me up anywhere.
Boom. All right, man. I'm going to put on my exit video, but you don't have to sit through the whole thing.
Oh, by the way, intro video. I think I already mentioned it, but Supreme.
Thank you, babe. That's appreciated. Take care.
Hey, everybody, tune in to Recent Tartarians.
Recent Tartarians. Recent Tartarians. Tartarian. Recent Tartarian. Recent Tartarian.
Hey, everybody, tune in to Recent Tartarian.
Recent Tartarian. Recent Tartarian.